The answer is that the cause of the terror is Islamist fundamentalism, which is a version of Islam, a politicized version of Islam, which is wreaking havoc across the globe and has been doing so for many years, and which was aiming to attack this country and our allies before the invasion of Iraq, before the invasion of Afghanistan, and indeed even before 9/11.
What's up, YouTube? Hope you guys are feeling good. My name is Eliru, and today I'm back with a new video and check out with you guys. This is called Legendary Debate. Douglas Murray demolishes arrogant leftist with her own words. It now goes, guys. We talk less and we react more. Let's check this out.
People think they have the right to blow up people going to nightclubs and to blow up those fleeing from the first blast, that seems to be the case. Then I'd say you have a choice in front of you.
Have you ever seen a debate where one side doesn't just win, but obliterates their opponent's arguments so thoroughly that there's nothing left standing? That's Douglas Murray for you. He doesn't just engage in debate, he surgically dismantles his opponents with precision, leaving them utterly speechless. In this video, we'll explore how Douglas Murray destroys leftists with shocking facts. In this video, he was asked why the UK is a terrorist target.
Has the UK become a terrorist target because of its culture or because of the actions of its government abroad?
We'll get back to the video shortly, but let me quickly say this. In the aftermath of 9/11, the UK's close alliance with the US and its involvement in the war on terror in Afghanistan and Iraq placed it at risk of retaliation from extremists. Discontent with Western foreign policy further fueled anti-Western sentiment, making the UK, a major power and centre for finance, a symbolic target. These factors are likely relevant to debates about the UK's foreign policy, counter-terrorism measures and community relations. In his answer, Douglas Murray simplifies the question by offering a clear binary option. Either the UK controls its foreign policy, or terrorists dictate it.
The answer is that the cause of the terror is Islamist fundamentalism, which is a version of Islam, a politicized version of Islam, which is wreaking havoc across the globe and has been doing so for many years, and which was aiming to attack this country and our allies before the invasion of Iraq, before the invasion of Afghanistan, and indeed even before 9/11. That is the truth.
Many of us will agree with Douglas here as he identifies Islamist extremism as the root cause of terrorism, which gives him a clear position to defend. Murray also provides historical context to support his assertion, claiming that Islamist terrorism predates the Iraq War and is not exclusively the result of UK foreign policy.
Are British troops in Iraq there for military reasons? Because there's only 5,000 of them, and I don't think they can fight against 100,000 or 150,000 Mahdi army people.
Concerning the issues in Iraq, Murray's statement displays some familiarity with the situation in Iraq. He claims an obligation to remain in Iraq based on the Iraqi government's wishes, showing a grasp of the established power relations. He mentions the historical context of Iraq's harsh dictatorship, implying some understanding of the circumstances before to the operation.
Of why fundamentalists turn on this country specifically as a target.
Because they hate this country and they hate our allies and they hate the West. And if you don't believe me, listen, at least do them the decency of listening to what they say themselves. Read the Hamas charter. Read what Mr. bin Laden says. Read what the Muslim Brotherhood would do in this country. Read it and believe them.
In the face of rising terror threats, Douglas argues that fundamentalists target the UK due to ingrained hatred for the West, particularly its allies and values. He urges people to take their pronouncements seriously, citing figures like bin Laden and the Hamas Charter as evidence of their hostile intentions. When asked the question about Western sympathy for Hamas,
should the West now have a more sympathetic approach to Hamas in light of their involvement in the release of Alan Johnson?
To be honest, that release of BBC journalist Alan Johnson in 2007 does not still change what Hamas represents. The organisation has been responsible for numerous attacks on civilians, promoting extremism and destabilising efforts toward peace in the region. Their involvement in Johnston's release can be seen as a strategic move to gain legitimacy and favourable publicity, rather than a genuine shift in their ideology or methods. Despite this singular act, the fundamental nature of Hamas as a terrorist organisation remains unchanged, and any sympathy from the West would be misplaced and detrimental to broader efforts for peace and security.
Well, the answer is no. Of course not.
Douglas Murray goes crazy about Hamas here. His reaction to a question regarding Hamas is nothing short of ardent and unwavering. He begins by emphatically criticising Hamas as a terrorist organisation that promotes the slaughter of Jews. Watch how Douglas responds.
I'd like to know who it was who was booing in the audience. I'd like to know who the Hamas supporter is in the audience here. Hamas is a terrorist organisation which makes a fetish out of the murder of Jews.
Murray's outrage is obvious as he singles out audience members who support Hamas, emphasising the group's horrible crimes, such as tossing their neighbours off buildings and shooting them in the back in Gaza.
Let me tell you what these people were doing just a couple of weeks ago to their own co-religionists in the Gaza, where they went to their next-door neighbours and threw people off buildings and shot people in the back when they were running away. And you think now this is a rehabilitated organisation because they posed for the release of a journalist?
He categorically rejects the idea that Hamas is a rehabilitated group, criticising its attempts to appear favourable by staging events such as the release of a journalist. Murray's strong denunciation demonstrates his unwavering opposition to terrorism and all who support it.
Why should we be negotiating with a terrorist organisation? Because if we go easy on Hamas, surely they're just going to be pushing their borders further and further, using more terrorist techniques until they get what they want.
Even the audience agrees with this. There's no point negotiating with a terrorist organisation. This is because going easy on Hamas will help them expand their border.
I think it has to be recognised that the suffragettes were a terrorist group. Nelson Mandela was a terrorist group. Thank God we negotiated with them. Thank God we got democracy for them.
Can you compare the Hamas situation to that of the suffragettes?
Yeah, I think we absolutely need to be sympathetic to the Palestinian people. This is like the longest occupation in modern times. Yeah. Why would normal people decide to support like a terrorist group? Because they feel like they've got no other options. And we have supported Israel for so long and for way, way too long.
Is Gaza really being occupied like these speakers asserted? Douglas attacks both claims. His response firmly rejects the notion that the situation in Gaza can be equated to the historical struggle for women's suffrage. He emphasises that Gaza is not occupied, countering the claim about it being the longest occupation in modern times.
Gaza is not occupied. And to make the equivalent between the suffragettes never got onto a bus and tried to blow it up and kill as many people as possible. If they did, women might not have the vote.
Murray draws a stark contrast between the suffragettes and groups like Hamas, by highlighting that the suffragettes never resorted to terrorism. They never attempted to blow up buses and kill innocent people. He argues that if they had engaged in such violent acts, it would have severely undermined their cause and possibly prevented women from gaining the right to vote. Murray's stance is clear. While advocating for Palestinian rights is important, it should not involve justifying or supporting terrorist tactics, which only perpetuate violence and hinder the pursuit of legitimate political solutions. Regarding the question about if Gordon Brown should remove tuition fees.
Gordon Brown has promised to listen to the people. So isn't it time he listened to the vast majority of university students and abandoned tuition fees? Should he?
Douglas Murray's response touches on the broader issues of social mobility and the role of universities. He argues that social mobility has declined over the past 40 years, partly due to tuition fees deterring talented individuals from poorer backgrounds from attending university. Murray points out that universities and grammar schools traditionally served as pathways for these individuals to escape poverty, a pathway now obstructed by the cost of education. He criticises the push to increase university attendance to 50% or more of the population initiated by Tony Blair, calling it a misguided goal. According to Murray, universities should remain elite institutions focused on educating the gifted rather than being open to all as a blanket policy. And that is the truth. By transforming universities into elite institutions that cater to gifted individuals, we can ensure that educational quality remains high and graduates are well prepared for their fields. The push for universal university attendance dilutes this quality and places undue financial constraints on students who may not benefit from a university degree. Instead, resources should be put toward alternate avenues, such as vocational training, to better serve the population's different needs and skills, resulting in a more skilled and adaptable workforce. Let us know what you think in the comment box below. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos examining the world's most fascinating thinkers.
This was literally a rush. I mean, it was from one hard topic to another. Uh Basically, the first question, why is Britain identified as a target for terrorists? Okay, I believe this necessarily has to do with history. Every country has done what they are not proud of at one time or the other. Uh, the British must have really, not even must have, they also have messed up at one point or the other in history. There are some countries that won't let go. There are some countries that can't forget. The hatred, the anger, the resentment, it keeps passing down from generation to generation. And the more people are given a reason to hate, then nothing you ever do seems good in their sight. And that's the fact. So if that hate often leads to the situation we are in now, this act of terror upon them, then that's just the end result. That's always the case. And when the student asked about Hamas, Douglas pointed out the killing of civilians and innocent women and children not directly involved with your grievances is really something to think about. Douglas gave an example with the suffrages, the same example that the young lady used to make a question. And he said that if the suffrages went on a bus and blew it up, trying to kill as many people as possible, then maybe women won't even have the right to vote today. And he went on, giving examples as to why the Hamas organization has now been publicly seen as a threat and a terrorist organization. He gave examples for this and used the compare and contrast method to even out the odds. And on the payment of tuition fees, Douglas believes that the university should be open to the gifted and not be a free-for-all blanket. He said this would help to maintain the quality of education and make it available to those who actually deserve it, if I'm to put it that way. And depending on how you think or how you see things, the thing is, in all this argument, there's never really an all right side and an all wrong side. Everyone that I've literally seen has a point or a reason for trying to put forth what they are saying. They have a reason for thinking the way they do. And the world is complicated. And simple dialogue won't really solve this all. Because still on the issue of terrorism, the conflict and the fight, if I'm to put it that way, are on a whole new level. As the lady pointed out, said Palestine needs the support of the world, because what if they have no other option than to rely on the so-called terrorists within their walls? She said they may really be going through a lot with no one else left to cry to. And point is, nobody ever really knows the full story. We are all given bits and pieces, and yet still manage to form a concrete argument on them. It's funny. It's funny, really. But guys, tell us what you think about this in the comment section. And please leave a thumbs up at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching and stay safe.